Beaten Path is a tactical turn-based RPG that is inspired by games like Final Fantasy Tactics and Fire Emblem. For me, it definitely gives off a more Fire Emblem vibe, but when I took a closer look at the game, I actually got more excited because it has some more elements of exploration than you normally get from this style of game, which brings to mind older games like Shining Force, and I always say, and I will always say, that I think the better blueprint for this style of game is expanding your world and giving the player more agency in exploring it. In other words, letting them walk from place to place, letting them move around. And now, of course, the combat in this style of game is likely to be the star of the show, and from what it sounds like, this one has a lot of things going for it. Over 20 different unique and recruitable characters, 200 different abilities, over 100 different weapons with 10 weapon classes. They're using a dual job system where each job has its own skill tree. All of that sounds pretty great. Sounds like they've really taken some time, created a deep system that allows for a lot of customization, giving you the ability to create a team that you'd like to play with and many different styles to choose from. During combat, it will be using an action point based system, so each action takes an amount of points. You can use different abilities depending on how many points you have available. The developer has said that there will be over 20 different maps, each with their own victory and defeat conditions. In my head, 20 sounds like a bit of a lower amount of maps, and after looking into it and comparing to other games like Tactics Ogre, Final Fantasy Tactics, it does seem to be on the shorter side, which makes sense considering that this is a single developer. They're trying not to make just a simple defeat the enemy sort of condition for each map. They're creating something a bit more complex than that. The part that really interested me is the fully illustrated and explorable overworld, with weather patterns, different landmarks, and events that happen as you travel. It seems like they've done a lot to really bring out the world of the game, adding lore tidbits to find as you explore, and different choices that you can make as you wander around. This is meant to be a significant part of the experience, not just a throwaway get from point A to point B sort of thing. I really appreciate that in the era of giving people a checklist to click on. It always feels like it cheapens the experience for me when everything is just nodes on a single 2D screen to select from, because we can't spend more than 3 seconds just enjoying exploration, apparently. Much like Fire Emblem Three Houses, you'll have a hub area to do various things in this game. That area is called the Haven, and you can talk to your allies there with shifting dialogue that changes depending on what part of the game that you happen to be on. As for the characters, they've shown off some of the 2D portraits. They seem to have nice variants. As I said earlier, there'll be something like 20 different characters you come across. I could see this being a major sticking point as to whether the game hits the notes that I would like. In these sorts of games, you tend to either get very memorable characters that are stand out, or characters that are shoved into specific roles in order to fit narrative or a certain archetype or something like that. So I'll be seeing where that lands on as we start to see more of these characters. So far, the characters seem to be well designed, but you never really know until you see more of them, and I think we've only seen 4 so far. So really, as we're looking at all of the various aspects of this game, I'm not really feeling like there's anything blatantly missing that I would want. They've done a pretty good job of covering all the basics of your average tactical RPG. Now I'm just looking for what will set this game apart in a sea of different games with this style. I think the exploration aspect is definitely a big plus and something that could potentially get more people interested. But the problem there is what I would call the is it fun factor. You can have all sorts of features that sound cool, but if it's not fun, it doesn't really matter. So they need to make sure that the exploration is fun and meaningful. If I'm just walking over a map that's extremely slow to go across, it just kind of looks pretty and that's about it, then we fall into some of the traps that probably led to the disappearance of the traditional JRPG world map in general. There's a way to do it that is fun, has you excited to see what's coming next, and a way to do it that just feels like wasted time and padding. The combat itself looks pretty fun and fast-paced, which is what you want to see. Animations look solid, and honestly, the game looks surprisingly well put together for an indie developer that is a team of 1. They did an entire Kickstarter for the game, and while it did get funded, it didn't blow the lid off or anything like that. I think it got double of what they were asking for, which is very good, but in this case it was something like $50,000 or something like that, which I think it's more of a symptom of people being much more cautious about Kickstarter projects than it says anything about the quality of the game or what it looks like. People are just so used to getting burned by Kickstarters that they're less willing to put their money up front. This is definitely one to keep an eye on, especially for fans of games like Fire Emblem, and we do occasionally get this style of game from indie developers. Sometimes they're pretty great. So far, this one looks like it's leaning in that direction. If you'd like to support the game, you can still do late pledges on Kickstarter, and they also have a Steam page, so make sure to go wishlist it. For more videos about RPGs of all kinds, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.